This is one of the worst DIY solar installs I have ever seen. Why? It boggles my mind. That's a nice way of supporting DC cable, isn't it? It's just mad. It's just scary. Now you might think all of this doesn't look too bad. Okay, there's a cover missing and a bit of twin and earth hanging out, but you know, DIYers have been caught red-handed with much worse stuff than this, haven't they? Well, I felt the same until I saw that absolute disaster of a show on the floor. But the story here is an interesting one because the customers invited us in because they were a little bit worried that maybe their DIY work wasn't quite up to scratch with the regulations. I'm starting to think they might have been right, but let's go and walk through what they've done and you can tell us in the comments all of the things that aren't compliant about this installation. Should we play that game? Let's go. So first of all, Rapunzel has let down her hair here and there's a whole plethora of DC cables. These are live, by the way. I probably shouldn't be picking them up, but I'm gonna do it anyway. This is all live DC cable from the solar array, which is behind me, which we'll show you in a minute. Now, normally cables are supposed to be supported in some way, but here, not so much. So we might need a little bit of support, cable tray, trunking, or at least some clips. That's definitely going to be the first thing that I know. In fact, I've just noticed some kind of support here. Look at this. Staples, that's a nice way of supporting DC cable, isn't it? I mean, technically it's, you know, it's protected from premature collapse in the event of a fire. Actually, I don't know how long a staple will last under fire conditions, but yeah, that's the first thing I've noticed. What else can we find here? I mean, actually this part looks fairly neat, right? They've even identified the DC cables, which is nice. They are going through separate holes. I would probably put these in stuffing glands, but hey, you know, I'm not gonna be fussy. This is a good start, right? And this Victron stuff does look pretty nice. So what they've got here is a charge controller, which basically the solar goes into. So these are the PV strings going into this, 4 strings of PV. And then out of that comes the 48 volt DC power, which then goes into these batteries, these BYD batteries. And then the batteries go into this, which then turns everything into 230 volts, right? And this is kind of where it starts to get a little bit hairy. I don't know whether I should step over this protective barrier that the customers installed. I don't know about the regulations to do with barriers. You know, there's placing out of reach and then there's barriers in the regs. Let me know if you think this barrier of a cardboard box is going to be compliant, but I'm going to just step over it and risk my life for a moment here. Okay, so we've got this twin and earth, as I said, which, you know, the cover's missing, live terminals exposed. These bits of Flexicon, no glands, you know, that's all well and good, but I mean, what on earth is this? They've used the neutral and CPC from this twin and earth cable. They've doubled them up. I'm not going to touch the line because that looks like it may actually be live and it's just hanging in the air there. And then they've doubled up the neutral and CPC in this bit of flex, which goes over here, whirly whirly. You know, this is a flashback to when I was in Indonesia on a remote island, but we're in the UK. People should know better than this. So then the flex comes through here and it's sort of, it's roped in to this double up Wago connector thing, which is actually being used to earth the armouring of this 50mm 4-core steel wire armoured cable. It boggles my mind how the customer thought that maybe it was not compliant. And then we've got this, right? So this is some kind of measuring device and it's very securely attached to the wall with cable tie on a hook. The earth wires not even twisted together. I mean, you could have had the courtesy to twist them together, but they're not. They're just there, they're just hanging in thin air. But you are probably all wondering, what the heck is this all about? And this is where it gets really scary, right? The entire house power, you know, the whole mains for this big property is all running through this. So what happens is this is a 50mm 4-core steel wire armoured cable. It comes from the main house. 2 of the cores come out here into this Victron system and then 2 go back to feed the main house. And the idea behind that is that in backup power mode, like when the grid goes out, they've got instantaneous switchover like UPS from these BYD batteries through the Victron system. So it's a clever idea, but the execution is a little bit lacking maybe, because they've not glanded the steel or armoured. It's just there floating, you know, and all of these, I mean, I'm a bit scared to even touch it, but all of these cables are just hanging there with these connectors, and it is, you know, it's a fire waiting to happen really, because when you don't have connector blocks secured in place, AC current, it vibrates, right? And it will loosen over time. And if you've got nothing to hold it into place, what's going to happen? Conductors are just going to come flying out and do their thing. So definitely got some remarks to the customer about that. Then there's this thing. So you've got a 1 amp MCB here. Very interesting. Protecting what looks like a sort of a 25mm copper conductor. Not sure what that's all about. So that's actually the neutral, which, what do you know about fusing the neutral? Switch neutrals? Definitely a no-go, but hey, we've done it. In here, you've got 2 lives sort of going in and out. So it looks like one comes from the house through this and then through to the Victron. So I'm guessing it's measuring the current flowing through. And then this neutral is probably just for voltage monitoring because it's on a 1 amp breaker. Oh man, it's all so confusing. It's just scary. And then, oh my goodness, there's more. So here we are at the consume unit. Let me know what you think. Neat or not neat? I don't even need to take the board cover off to reveal whether it's neat or not neat, because there is no board cover. And we have this lovely earth cable that's, you know, very securely earthing the armouring of that 50mm 4-core steel armoured that's carrying 80 amps or whatever. And then we've got this, which is a little bit of twin and earth, gently lashed in to the consumer unit with a nice floating 16 amp breaker. Why? I don't understand. This is all very confusing. Why anyone would even let me look at an installation of this caliber. It's just mad. And then you've got this consumer unit with all the copper, you know, exposed, and lots of weird stuff going on here. You've got all of these CTs, which, oh, there's some kind of monitoring device here. And then a network switch, and there's a solar PV meter, and a bit of SY cable. Wow, which is actually glanded. It's just mad. If you were invited in to this and somebody asked you to do an EICR on this, what would you say? Would you A, refuse, B, quote them a stupid price, or C, report them to the police? Let me know in the comments below. This is like a giant firework waiting to go off. Honestly, I have never seen anything like this. It's just incredible. But you know what's the most incredible thing? This has actually been up and running for like a year and a half, and it's been working. But I'm gonna make some recommendations. So first of all, that armoured cable needs glanding properly. So I'd say it probably could do with being secured to the wall as well, maybe, and then glanding into some kind of enclosure where live conductors are away from prying fingers. Then all of this sort of other wiring needs putting into trunking or something. That consumer unit just needs ripping out and starting again, and I would recommend an EICR first as well, just to see what the state of the wiring is that it's connected to. And then the Victron stuff, you know, the cover needs to go on, and it all just needs kind of ripping out and starting again. You know, it's really interesting. Some people have this mindset of like, oh, I'll string it all together and get it working. And then once I know that it works in principle, then I'll sort of tidy it up and sort it all out at the end. And that's what this customer's done, really. Clearly they kind of know what they're doing because it works. But for me, it's like, it's harder to do an install like this because my brain is like, what the heck is going on here? Versus just step by step, like doing it all nicely and neatly, one step at a time, and getting it all working. But I guess everyone's different, right? Some people have different ways of doing things. So yeah, hit a thumbs up for our customer and subscribe if you want to see a follow-up where this is all tidied up.